Okay, this is just to continue from that previous video, the part one video of this, and I'd stopped at the point where I was talking to you about image size. So image size, all right, so if you go up to image and click on where it says image size, you can then change it. So right now, this is an enormous file size, it's 46 megabytes. So if you were gonna try to upload this to the internet, on your website or a Padlet page, you'd have problems because it's just going to be way too big. So for one thing, you want to keep your original. When you do edits, haven't done any edits to this particular color image, but when you do edits, you want to just keep your original intact and do file save as. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And you want to keep an original resolution file so that if you ever wanted to go back and re-edit from the same color photo again, you haven't lost it by renaming it or overwriting that file. So so if you're going to upload this to the internet, I'd recommend doing something like, instead of it being 16 inches wide, why don't you take that down to 8 or 9 inches wide? So now it's an 8 by 5.5 inch image. Let's go and switch that to 9. And then I would do it maybe something like 150 pixels per inch and hit OK on that. And now when we zoom up on that, you don't really start seeing pixels until you get about this close up. And most people viewing it on a screen aren't going to see those pixels anyway, right? So that would be a good size for internet use. All right, so now that we've made the image smaller, we can go to File and go to Save As. And so you want to come up with a naming system, and I'll talk to you about that in a future lesson. But often what I'll do is I'll just have my original number on there, and I'll just add edit, and small. Just for my own purposes, and that way I can go back and find the original number one if I need to later. I'm sure there's better ways to save than that, but it's kind of the system I've been using. So then you'd hit save, and I'll hit OK. You can change this from maximum. You can have it compress it even more. And so right now it's a pretty small file now. It's only 280K. But we're going to go with that. So that would be a pretty good size just to upload it to your Padlet page. It wouldn't give any problems. But it's your choice, what size you edit your images to on your own websites and things like that. So, all right, so I'm going to get back out of here. I'm going to go File, Open, Recent. And I'm just going to open the original of that image back up because I want to tweak it some more and show you guys some stuff on it. So, so that's how to save it. And from there, I just want to show you just a few more little tricks that you might want to use. So let's go back to a black and white version. Let's go to Image Adjustments, make this black and white again. And let's say we went with this one, but we thought it's a little bland. Let's try the yellow. That's even more bland. Let's just stick with default for now, because what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use like the blue filter or one that makes it really dramatic, because I want to show you how you could add drama just using some basic tools. So over on the side over here on the toolbar, there's something called the Dodge and Burn tool. So you can see it looks like a little hand making the OK sign or making a little hole. If you click on it and hold, you get what looks like a little paddle or lollipop or something symbol next to it called Dodge tool. Those symbols come from the darkroom era. So if you were, I used to teach darkroom, and in the darkroom, when you would dodge, basically that meant you were dodging light from the negative hitting your photograph as the negative exposed the light-sensitive photo paper. So to dodge basically meant that you were keeping light from hitting an area. It would often use like a little, homemade tool of like a piece of wire, a clothes hanger with a piece of paper taped to it of the shape that we wanted to dodge out, and then you'd keep that little dodge tool moving to keep light from hitting an area. Burn is the opposite, and often you would just use your hand closed up like a circle, or you could have a different tool for that. But often you just use your hand to mask out and burn in an area. And so you're often just taking and burning in a whole, a small area to darken it. So anyway, so that's what the symbols, most of the symbols and terms in Photoshop come from original darkroom stuff. So let's say we want to darken some areas on this. So let's go to the burn tool. And just like any tool, up at the top bar, you've got some parameters that you can change. You can make it big or small. So if you're going to go ahead and you were trying to do like a really small area that you wanted to change, you could go up and change the brush size to much smaller through here. You can change the hardness or softness levels of it, which will change like how hard edged that brush looks. So that's some things you can go in and experiment with there. Some of these other things are if you were painting in Photoshop, like here's some old paint mimicking things. So I wouldn't use that for a dodge and burn tool though. All right, so exposure, that's just how fast it's working. So if I take this, right now I'm set to darken the midtones. I'm just gonna take this area in the background, and you can see right here that it's darkening it kind of slowly. And you kind of want to set it light because you don't want to just like overwhelm it all of a sudden. You don't want to just turn black immediately. So, but if you turn it all the way up to 100 and hit that area, you see it goes dark a lot quicker. So it's a little bit harder to control that way. So I'm going to turn it back down to, I don't know, just done at 50% right now. I don't want to do it too slow because for demo purposes, you won't be able to see what I'm doing very well. All right, so the other thing we can change is what it's affecting. So right now it's set to midtones. You can set it to shadows, you can set it to highlights. So I'm gonna set it to shadows. And well, for one thing, we could just go and carefully work around the flowers with the burn tool, but then you've got to be really careful not to accidentally go in and hit into the flowers. So most of these are pretty dark shadow areas in the background, and then these are really light highlights on the flower in the foreground. So I'm going to go ahead and go to shadows, and then when I use this tool, I can even use it bigger. I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Yeah, I'm going to go, all right, it's a little bit bigger. All right, so now I can go in and now I'm like darkening this background, and when I go over the flower itself, it's not really changing it, but it's hitting the background. That's because it's not affecting the highlight areas. You can see it as I go over this middle flower that it's darkening some of the shadow areas on it and making them a little bit more intense contrast. But I can pretty freely just draw around the background and not worry too much because it's actually leaving my flowers mostly alone, but then increasing the contrast in a good way, like sort of intensifying the darks. So I really like how that's working. And that's actually bringing the photo to life a little bit more. So you can work on this a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on this part of the demo. Just to show you the opposite of that, so if I were to select the highlights to darken those, now when I go over the flowers, it's actually darkening those highlights. And so if you wanted to darken those, that would be the way to do it, to doing the sort of opposite effect. Now let's say if you want to undo something, you can use Command Z or go to Edit Undo or File Undo, wherever the undos are. There we go, Edit and Undo. So you can see the symbol there for Edit, Undo. The shortcut is Command Z. You can also use the history. Right now I don't have the history window open, so I'm going to go down to history and click this. So this is where your various palettes are, so you can click things off and on here that you like to use. I'm going to turn the history palette on for now. And now you can see where I've done Burn Tool. And so I can go back in time and just undo a few of those. And now I've gotten rid of where I was darkening the highlights. You can go back pretty far, all the way back to when you opened it. And then you can go back to where you were before. But so that's another way of doing your undos there. So, so I would call it at that. And I'll pick up on teaching you guys some more stuff in some future YouTube lessons. But so dodge and burn, that's one way to alter your image. I'll show you another way in the future using layers. So you really unlock Photoshop's potential when you start to work in layers. And so to dodge and burn using layers, you would basically create a dark layer, a dark version of your photo and a lighter version of your photo, and then erase through one of those to reveal parts of the other one. So that's a more sophisticated way to do dodge and burn, and I'll show you that technique on a future lesson. All right, thanks.